So what's going on in this new space? So when I was thinking about that, it was like, you're going to have to quantize it. You're starting a new space, you better build up from the basics. So thinking about what space is, right? And so there's this kind of concept that people have of like this, this void. And it's really kind of nonsensical. It's nothing. And so it doesn't work. So you have to propagate the energy into this new universe, this new space, some way. And it's already coming through wormhole. So the base level of space, and this is where Q3 comes from, is these Planck scale wormholes. You have two of them. You have to have two of them. And it's the space between them and the amount of energy that is required to keep them open. That's it. So, and this is like going to some extent with Brian Greene. We're talking about quantum foam. That is what we see as quantum fluctuation. Okay, virtual particles annihilating. What we're witnessing in quantum foam is the annihilation of these wormholes. You cannot see this. It's translucent. You can't see inside of it any more than you can see inside of, your full 2D collapse in the black hole. So you have this field in between, and this kind of, I don't want to refer to it as a lattice. We're going to say it's a geometry, right? It's a fluid. It wants to stay flat because the flatter that it can be, the more that it can geometrically conserve itself and keep these wormholes separated. That's the way I think I can put it. So this 1D pulse energy is coming through these wormholes, and as it comes through these wormholes, it hits that field, and that field is largely 2D at this point in time. Okay. It is unfolding. The mass, this high pressure system moving into a low pressure system, right, is going to determine ultimately the unfolding of this new space. This field is unfolding as it happens. These pulses are coming out. Now, shorter frequency pulses, when they come out and hit that field, they go into the wormhole, they blue shift. We have to keep in mind, like the wormholes, the difference between, space between an opening and an exit in a wormhole is 2 frames. Always 2 frames. If you get wormholes at a distance, still 2 frames. I don't know, maybe look into quantum entanglement. So what happens there is the shorter frequencies, because that's all you have is no amplitude. They blue shift going into the wormhole, they redshift coming out. When they redshift at this redshift boundary, is where they meet with the 2D scaffold, lattice, whatever. If they're short, they really don't have a lot of interaction. They have a velocity interaction, and that's about it. If they're longer, what happens is that the front end hits the redshift boundary. The ass end is, even though there's a Lorentz transformation going on, they're still long, and they hit deformation, considerable. And so, the rear end of them is catching up with the front end of them, basically. And they crumple. When they crumple, they do things like knot and twist and turn themselves crazy. When that happens, you go then again from strictly, 1D to 2D back to a 3D universe through amplitude. They gain amplitude, and then you're back into a 3D universe. When they do that, the field that they are in, it has to warp somewhat around them. It begins to warp, begins to sag, better way of putting it. And there are, certain points in, say, the crumpling of this now particle with mass where it interacts more with the field than other parts. All right? And that is the difference between a massless particle, light, and a massive particle moving up to electrons and higher quarks. So, if you haven't guessed what that field is in the theory, in mine, it's the Higgs field. That's what it is. So the Higgs field is a part of quantized space, right? You don't really need anything else. Now, when we begin to move up in scale, the flatness is fairly consistent at these smaller quantum scales and even up to electron scales. Okay, there's a little bit of deformation, but not a considerable amount. Of course, the higher up you go, you begin accumulating this warp. And again, the field is trying to stay flat. So what it does is, if you want to say push, right? Push, pull, whatever. It tries to consolidate all of these massive particles it tries to compartmentalize them so that it can stay flat over a greater area. Okay, it can resist deformation better. And so you end up with, valleys, wrinkles, rivers, if you will. And it does this also in conserving by trying to make sure that they're, the straightest paths, right, through that field. And that is why there's gravity. All right? So the long-ass question, what is gravity? Why is there gravity? That is, in this theory, why gravity exists. Now, in the flat zones, the field is less constrained in creating new field than it is in areas where there's high mass density. And that's a fundamental part of the theory. So, that's why we have cosmic voids and things like that. And ultimately, what this theory says is that gravity and dark energy are fundamentally the same thing. Okay? It is the Higgs field trying to conserve flatness. That's it.